Hey friends, have you been thinking about moving to the Oklahoma City metro area and maybe you've been considering Edmond? Well, today I'm going to talk about all of the great aspects of Edmond, but also the not so great and everything in between. So stick around, you're going to want to hear it. I'm Katie Kuriakos, your local real estate agent here in the Oklahoma City metro area, and I specialize in Edmond. I know the Edmond neighborhoods front to back, and I not only like to give you all of the great aspects of Edmond, but I also like to warn you of some of the cons. I think if you're coming from another state or maybe another country, you don't fully understand all of the positives and the negatives until you're here. So to help you make the best decision on where to move, I'm going to get right into it. So let's talk about pro number one, and that's kind of an obvious, I'm sure you've read about it, and that is Edmond schools. So if you know anything about Oklahoma, schools isn't something that we're necessarily known for in a positive light. However, Edmond is one of those pockets where they do have really great schools that attract a lot of families. There are people that move from other places in the state and they want to get into Edmond public schools. There's people that move across the country. I help a lot of families that want to be in Edmond schools because of their ranking, which is fantastic. Edmond Public Schools has 3 high schools, Edmond North, Memorial, and Santa Fe. Each of them have their own middle schools and their own elementary schools that feed into them. I would say they focus a lot on academics, athletics, and extracurriculars, and parents really value that sense of community that they get with Edmond Public Schools. If you have researched it all and looked at schools in Oklahoma, you're going to know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, we're not ranked super high in schools. However, there are quite a few pockets around the OKC Metro, Edmond included, that have really top ranked school systems. So let's dive into pro number 2, and that is that Edmond is very clean, safe, and family friendly. It has a high reputation for being very clean and safe. The crime rate is actually much lower than other areas of the metro, so it attracts a lot of families, of course, for that. And Edmond has invested quite a bit in things like sidewalks, parks, community events, things like that. You'll see a lot of kids out riding bikes, neighbors walking their dogs, and they invest a lot in community events throughout the year. For instance, their 4th of July celebration every year is well known, it's very family friendly, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. So of course, for these reasons, we see a lot of families that are relocating to the Edmond area. Okay, so let's dive into pro number 3, and that is that Edmond has an abundance of parks and recs facilities. They have some really large parks like Hafer and Mitch Park. You'll hear about those a lot. There's actually over 30 city parks sprinkled throughout the city. Mitch Park even has a YMCA on site, and both Mitch and Hafer have some large like baseball and softball fields. Lots of little leagues run out through there, that sort of thing. And then they have your traditional playgrounds, walking trails, all of that. I'm actually out at Lake Arcadia right now. You can see that here in the background. This is a lake that sits on the east side of Edmond, and I tell you what, it's one of my favorite lakes. You'll see a lot of fishing going on. There's campgrounds, there's biking and walking trails. And my favorite part about it is that if you look out here, I mean, it is a weekday in kind of mid-morning, late morning. So there's not a lot of boats out there, but that's actually pretty normal for this lake. It's a much more peaceful lake. You go to some others and it's extremely busy. There's boats all over, right? Lake Arcadia is kind of the opposite of that. It's for the people out fishing or walking their dogs, taking family walks, kind of just checking out the shoreline, that sort of thing. And there are some boats out there, but it's really just more like a calm, peaceful environment, which I really love. Like I said, it sits out on kind of the east side of Edmond, but even if you're further into Edmond or on the west side, you're really only looking at about 10-15 minutes to get there. So if you're an outdoor lover, Edmond can deliver. There's tons of outdoor activities to partake in, and you might be pleasantly surprised. Okay, and now pro number 4 is that Edmond has a really strong and steady economy and job market. Edmond is home to the University of Central Oklahoma, as well as several corporate offices. and provides a lot of opportunities for jobs in the medical field, educational, and tech fields. There's a lot of downtown hospitals that are in downtown Oklahoma City that have put in newer, slightly smaller, but still large locations in Edmond, providing a lot of opportunities there. Plus, Edmond is very close to the Chisholm Creek and Quail Springs area, providing so many job opportunities. Okay, so let's get into pro number 5, and that is that Edmond has some really beautiful and diverse neighborhoods. Depending on what it is you're looking for, you're probably able to find it in Edmond. Now, what I will say is that it really depends on what part of Edmond you're looking at and what kind of home you want as well. So if we kind of break down Edmond, we can look over on the east side of Edmond, over by that Lake Arcadia, and we're going to find a lot of new construction homes. You're going to find a lot of really beautiful, slightly larger lots, and it's out more in like a peaceful setting where there's just mostly residential, not a lot of commercial out there. These are going to be a lot of newer homes. Now, come into the south or the central part of Edmond. That's where you're going to find some older homes too. Maybe you want a home that was built in the 70s, 80s, 90s. That's where you're going to find that. Now, also you can go up to the north side of Edmond where you're approaching Guthrie, which is far out on the city outskirts. And that's where you're going to find lots of new homes. Think larger lots, gated communities. If you're wanting your home to sit on an acre and you have the budget for that, that's where you're going to find up there. So you can find a little bit of everything. I will say what I think is harder to find in Edmond is our truly historical homes. If you're like, I want a home that was built 100 years ago, that's going to be a little bit harder to find. They are out there, but just not as many of them for sure. So I would say with Edmond, you're going to see so many great options for homes. So lots of different options as far as type of neighborhood and type of home that you might be looking for. Okay, so it wouldn't be fair if we just talked about the pros. Like I said, we're going to dive into the cons of Edmond too. So let's dive in with con number 1, and that is that Edmond prices are a little bit higher, right? So compared to other areas of the metro of Oklahoma City, home prices are a little bit higher, as well as property taxes, okay? And people say, well, why is that? Well, really you're buying into the community. You're buying into the top ranked schools and the community that is Edmond, okay? So property taxes are going to be a little bit higher. Home prices, the same exact home might cost a little bit more in Edmond than it does in some other suburbs of the city. Utilities can slightly vary too around the metro. Edmond public utilities can be just slightly higher, but I would say that's not really all that much. So like I said, it wouldn't be fair if I just talked about the great things of Edmond. We got to talk a little bit about the cons too. Now, people say, well, why is that? Well, you're buying into the community, honestly. You're buying into the better school district, the community that's pouring a little bit more money into their parks and rec and, all the things that come along with that. So you're going to find that maybe the same exact home that sits in Edmond is going to be priced a little bit higher than that same home in another suburb. Same thing with property taxes. Those are a little bit higher as well, and then they dig from those resources and put out to the community. You'll also see that utilities can vary around the metro. Edmond is just slightly higher, but I wouldn't say there's a big, huge discrepancy there. So just something to kind of think about when looking for homes. If budget is really, really important to you, Edmond prices will be a little bit on the higher end. Okay, I'm gonna get out of the sun just for a little bit here, and let's do con number 2. And that, I would say, is the limited nightlife and entertainment opportunities. So if you are someone that wants to have large outdoor concerts, nightclubs, all of that right down the street, you're probably not going to find that in Edmond. That is going to be a drive away down to downtown Oklahoma City. We do have some local wine bars, local breweries, things like that. But if you're looking for really trendy, hot nighttime spaces, probably not going to find it right in the Edmond Center. Okay, and con number 3, I would say, is traffic on the main roads. You've heard me talk about, in a lot of my other videos, talk about the lack of traffic that we have in Oklahoma City. If you're coming from a really large city, you will find that our traffic really isn't all that bad. However, there is some spots in Edmond where it can get quite congested. Right over here, you can't see it here, but I'm standing along Broadway Avenue, which is kind of our main road that goes down to, connects to the interstate, goes down to downtown Oklahoma City. During rush hour, this is going to get pretty congested, right? So if you are someone that plans to live in Edmond but maybe commute downtown every day, we do need to be thoughtful in what neighborhood that we want to live in for the best commute. All right, and con number 4, I would say, is limited public transportation. If you are coming from a city where there is a rail station or rail system, maybe there are a lot of public buses, all these being good options, Edmond and really Oklahoma City in general isn't going to be the best with that. We do have a local bus system. However, it doesn't cover the entire city. It's not going to come all the way up to Edmond, and if it does, it's pretty limited. We are a very car dependent city. So to get to anywhere, really, you are going to need a car. It's not super walkable or bikeable. It is in some spots, but trust me, you're gonna need a car. Okay, and con number 5, our last one, I would say, is construction everywhere. Oklahoma City is a ever-growing city. We're very fast growing. So what that has kind of developed is some growing pains of construction, and Edmond being a part of that too. Even out here on Broadway, we're seeing a lot of construction sites. It kind of slows down traffic a bit, but it's one of those things where you have to kind of just stick with the growing pains and know that new great things are coming, but along the way there's going to be some traffic that's associated with all of that new construction. Look, at the end of the day, no neighborhood, no place is perfect. Edmond has a ton of great perks, and it's a really great city, especially for families. Very, very family friendly. But of course, I've gone over some of the negatives with you today as well. Hopefully, all of that has been really helpful in determining if Edmond is a good spot for you and your family. And if you have more questions, just let me know on that. Again, my name is Katie Kuriakos. I'm a local real estate agent here in the Oklahoma City area, specializing in Edmond. And I get calls and texts every single day from people just like you looking to make their move to the Oklahoma City area. So if that sounds like you, drop down to the description below where you can find all of my contact information. Whether you're moving tomorrow or months from now, maybe you're moving across the country, across the world, or just down the street, I'm here to make your move to Edmond as seamless as possible.